Okay, welcome to Around the Table. We've been covering Twin Peaks Season 3. Well, not all of it, but several episodes. But now we've come to the end. Or is it? Is it the end, or is it merely just the beginning of Twin Peaks? That's the thing we need. We might get some answers for here, or we might not get any. We may be left with more questions than answers, which is usually the case. But I'd like to welcome, to talk about Part 18, my global friends. We got Marilla from the Netherlands. Hi, Marilla.
Hello.
We have Chris from Sydney, Australia. How you doing, Chris?
Hello.
And we have Tim from all the way from Texas, believe it or not.
Howdy. All right.
Amazing. This is incredible. This is the miracles of technology. So let's hope that it doesn't break up and and electricity doesn't go funny on this one. So right, Part 18. Come in anytime you want, guys. I've done my notes, but please, any points you want to raise, please go for it. It begins with the rotter that was Mr. C burning in the Black Lodge. And now he's got the more classic doppelganger white eyes rather than the black. But next minute we see the little ball bearing things on the chair. You see Mike's hand. Electricity. And what happens? He pops on the chair into Tulpa Dougie in the shape of course, Slimline Cooper, and makes his way back to Janie E and Sonny Jim's house. And I'm home. Hi, honey, I'm home. It's like a sitcom. Yeah. So
I think that
ever after for the Janie E family.
I think in a way can already be an ending, a happy ending.
I have to say at this point, I'm seriously of the mind that that's Cooper, and he switches with the doppelganger and goes back and goes home to Las Vegas.
And
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to run your flow.
I never thought about that one before. No, that's looking up.
That's how I came to grips. That's how I came to grips with Part 18 in general. It really is. When you look at what's left in Richard, then it's not that much of a stretch of the imagination to consider that maybe Coop just went home with Dougie.
Yeah, because I believe that the Tulpa, the Cooper we see for the remainder of the episode, it isn't really Cooper. There's something wrong with him. Even when he first steps out of the lodge and meets Diane, and she says, "Is that really you?" And he's like, yes, but he doesn't seem like him. He doesn't have that look on his face that he did when he saw her in Twin Peaks.
Yeah, it is.
So and of course, the way he acts in the diner is completely not Cooper. So
no, not at all.
I mean, I'm just saying that I'm of the mind that pretty much Cooper went home to Vegas and he left the other guy to do all that other nonsense.
I actually think the opposite in a way, because I think the Cooper, if he takes responsibility, and I think this is an important journey for him to take. And I think the Tulpa, in a way, that would go to Janie E and Sonny Jim, is maybe,
Well, I can see your point. Here's the thing: there's no wrong answer. There's no correct answer. But my point is though that also this guy has spent 25 years in that hellhole lodge, whatever it is, and really, when he came back and took Dougie's place, he found out that Dougie had a very nice life, and the 2 or 3 weeks that he's there, he's got a great wife, he's got a great kid. This is all stuff that Cooper would have wanted for himself, and he's got a great boss. Sorry,
I think both is probably
both those great years.
It would in a sense. You're right though, Tim. In a sense, it would make sense that he would be what he would want that, and maybe he would have switched things to have a life he never had before.
I think he did.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. I know that the episode's been set up with so many different possibilities. You've got different timelines. You've got the whole business of dreaming. Who's the dreamer and all that? So I mean, it's you can't argue with anybody that this is what happened. You can have your theories. You can make a lot of people have very detailed theories regarding Joe Day and all that other stuff. But I think a lot of that's just red herring on Lynch's part. And to me, it works out that this is a good ending, that Cooper goes home, because that's the point of the series, is his journey home from his predicament.
Yeah.
That's the way I see it.
The return.
Yeah.
So he's returning to...
I think what's also very interesting, before you've got the forest when Cooper is holding Laura's hand, and then when she disappears, there's a moment like it's shifting from this place to the Black Lodge. But it can also be like, could it be later or a different moment in time? And that's exactly what you're saying, Tim. It's like there are all these different possibilities. So lots of things are possible.
Yes. I think the reason Lynch has done it the way he's done with Dougie returning and it being ambiguous as to whether it's Dougie you're a little bit confused about what Dougie you're getting served when he goes home, but it seems like Tulpa Dougie instilled with a little bit of Coop, because he seems to be wrapped with a little bit more emotion.
Well, hold on. And you don't see him for very long. You only see him for a second. He just shows up at the front door and he just says home, and that's it.
But it's kind of the look, though. And I think maybe the reason.
But he does seem a little bit more with it than usual, though. I think even in that.
My point is that we have not seen a Tulpa that actually works exactly like who they're resembling. I mean, okay, I think that's one of the reasons that they pulled Diane back into the story for these 2 episodes, the last 2, is so you can see that she's nothing like the original Diane that we've come to know through the series. In other words, she's not like the Tulpa. She's a much more real person. That Diane, the Tulpa Diane, was a horrible person that did nothing but, talk bad to everybody and drink too much and smoke too much. So I mean, in other words, that's not who Diane was. And you would think Gordon and Albert would have caught on that that's not her a lot sooner. But my point is that I think that's one reason they bring Diane back, is to give you an example, see how Tulpas don't work. The original Dougie Tulpa also was a slob who gambled and cheated on his wife and didn't even make it to Sonny Jim's birthday party. Yeah. So, I mean, Cooper... I don't think he would think, I'm just going to send a Tulpa back and it's going to fix everything for them. No, I think he said, this is my out. This is my way out. Yeah. And he went home to Vegas.
I think he's left it reasonably open, with Tulpa Dougie returning and then this new Richard and this new Cooper coming out through the red curtains. It kind of lets you make up your own mind about who's who, because one of the things that I've noticed, and it's very prevalent in Inland Empire and The Return, is that Lynch is far less concerned with the resolving the narrative and far more interested in the feelings that it generates. And, seeing Cooper come back out of the Black Lodge and seeing Dougie return home, seeing the Richard character plodding around frying guns, it invokes a feeling, Sarah Palmer, no resolution, but all the grief, her feeling is grief. And, I think maybe that's why Tulpa, Dougie and Richard are a little bit are so confusing as characters, because, I think Lynch has kind of left it ambiguous enough that we can just make up our own minds and just let Twin Peaks live in our heads, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
We get onto that flip thing, or the flip in the characters as we go along, about the Diane and the Richard and Linda segment, because there is a flip there. But it goes back to the bit that we saw in part 17 again. You get a couple of, I wouldn't say complete reruns, but you get like the same scene of Cooper leading Laura through the woods, and then he loses her, and you hear the scream. It's slightly differently shot, or it's a bit more lengthier than the other one. It's slightly different, isn't it? The outcome's going to be different, and we get you get Mike again saying, "Is it future or is it past?" Again, another scene from earlier is being replayed in, and this time Laura's chair's empty. Cooper keeps looking at the chair and she's not there, and again, similar scenes to earlier. Mike gestures Coop to follow him. We see the tree, the arm again. And he asks this time, is this the story of the little girl who lives down the lane? Which is something that Audrey says earlier on as well to Charlie about the little girl.
Puzzling, isn't
it? It's puzzling. Connection, I don't know, but...
it's puzzling. It's just puzzling. It's nothing but puzzling. You can think about it forever. The truth is, you really don't have enough information about what's going on in Lynch's brain.
It's just a line, yeah.
Work out what the fuck it means. Yeah, it is. It's just a line. It's a feeling.
I would say that the truth is always there. You just have to see the big picture and find it somehow. Because I mean, it might make sense a certain way, but you just have to pull yourself back far enough from it to see what you're seeing. Because he doesn't play by the rules, and he's going to tell you the story the way he wants to tell it. And there's going to be a lot of red herrings, probably, especially like with this in his last several films, all the puzzle movies. You know that you really have to think really hard about to get what's actually happening in the film. And that's what we get a lot of here, I think, especially this episode. This is your Mulholland Drive ending, basically.
But again,
it puts everything in a different context.
Interestingly, we see Leland again saying that same line, find Laura. This time around, I think that's playing out, that could be more meaningful than we might have initially thought as things are turning out. Maybe, I'm just thinking, as we go on later on, because there seems to be so many little plot strands open that could bring it back, you know, that could indeed be one of them. That line might be more important than we thought. You know, find Laura. Maybe that's the next thing that will be looked at.
Yeah, and it's weird because
that wasn't the right Laura, or whatever it might be. You know.
I was actually very happy to see Ray Wise again, even though it was really short.
And it's exactly the same thing, basically. You know, pretty much from what he did before. It's just been a lot. There was quite a few that were put back in. But,
and does anyone else find it bizarre? And I found this bizarre, and it was always in the back of my mind through the whole series, that you get in part 1 or 2, you get Leland saying, find Laura to Cooper. Cooper runs out of the Black Lodge, or falls out of the Black Lodge, and she's kind of never mentioned again until part 17, apart from in golden orb form at some point in some bizarre place. And I think there's some relevance in the fact that we see Cooper being served with that find Laura line again after being served it and literally doing nothing about it for the entire series. Maybe.
Well, I think that's because he gets caught up living Dougie's life for so many episodes too. That's why it's not the most immediate thing he's going to do. But again, all of these parts, all these different scenes are sometimes out of order. We learned that about sometime after episode 10, we start to realize we're not exactly seeing everything in order, are we? And that could be because the different timelines are shifting, or because time has changed. Did Cooper retcon the entire series, or did he not? I mean, it's hard to tell if that ever happened or not, even though we see the body on the beach disappear. Or is he in a different timeline now where he meets Carrie Page? Because obviously she's not Laura Palmer, or is she? That's the thing. There's so many questions that are unanswered, and it's like you really just have to keep looking, keep trying to figure it out. That's the design anyway. Lynch wants you to watch this thing endlessly.
You were just saying about that thing, Tim, about the bit on the beach and Laura's body disappears. The visual effect on it was the same as when Cooper disappears when Giant's talking from episode 1. It's exactly the same, that 3D thing. And I never thought about this. I just was vanishing. But on the last episode I covered, Mel, my guest on there, said it looked almost like she was being erased. Erased from history. It was like someone rubbing someone out, with a rubber.
Yeah.
The effect looked more like that. And I thought, that's intriguing. I never thought of it like that.
It actually comes back later on. I can't remember which episode that he reappears with the same kind of thing.
Strange sort of zigzag.
Yeah. But I can't come up with which episode at the moment.
Yeah, but that's just intriguing. That kind of like.
Yeah, actually, what you all are talking about really comes back to what Philip Gerard says about: is it future or is it past? So the timelines are not always linear. It's shift, kind of going backwards, forwards. Sometimes I've got the feeling things are looping.
Yeah. If you dig into the Fire Walk With Me script, there was all these mentions of these lines about cycles. Everything will proceed in a cycle. And I think maybe the return kind of plays with that idea a little bit in this cycle of Cooper exiting in some way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, when Laura disappears in the forest, when you go to episode number 1 of The Return, the first person you see is Laura. And that can actually be a loop in its own, in a way.
Yeah.
Again, it's people were saying that is it future or is it past? For thinking, some people were like looking at that line, you know, and saying, is that a kind of narrative cop out? You know, because you could just just to explain things. Oh, is it future or is it past? That's gonna, you know.
And I think when we last time we talked about episode 8, the infinity number 8, which is actually also a loop. It's non-ending, like the snake shape. It doesn't stop. It's always continuing.
Yeah.
A lot of the complaints about the whole series in general is that the whole thing is a narrative cop-out because he doesn't give you any proper answers. But that's just his style. And Frost as well. They want the audience to think about this and figure it out on their own. That's why he never provides you like with a cheat sheet that tells you everything that's in there. He says you complete the puzzle. The audience completes the puzzle by figuring it out.
I think it's not like math, like 1 + 1 is 2. No. This is like 1 + 1 can be 3 or 15 or 18 or 47 or whatever you see in the work is a good answer.
Yeah,
nice one. Yeah.
We it's where are we? Sorry.
I think we're.
This is a bit where Coop and Diane.
Still at the cut.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Still Coop and Diane at this point. I think it is actually. Before they cross that threshold thing, are in the car driving, and it's bright and sunny at this point. And she keeps asking, "Do you really want to go through with this?" And he says, "Yes, we have to." Well, we get that number, don't we? 430.
Yes.
Told by the giant at the beginning, but of course this time it equates to 430 miles. This is where this point is going to be, this kind of breach or in time or something that they have to cross at 430. And Coop gets out, and there's got these electrical pylons around, and you can hear it crackling. There's so many nods to electricity in this whole thing that seem to be very important, like that they create. The electricity creates some kind of unnatural power, if you know what I mean, or opens a gateway of, that's what it implies, I think.
Talking about a gateway or portal, whatever you want to call it, I was watching episode 17 and 18 next to each other, and when that electricity thing happens, at the same time in 17, that Coop actually is transferred from the place where the fireman is to Twin Peaks. So it's also a portal transfer. So it actually happens at the same time. Interesting.
Now I'm going to have to go back and look at that again.
I haven't watched a single episode beside a single episode since the start.
No, the only two that work, and it's not the whole episode, by the way, it's just the scenes we were talking about earlier on with the glass box. They do work when they're side by side. Because they were meant to be, but they were just played out of order when we watched them originally. But when Cooper comes in, and then they go out, and then Cooper comes in, and then blah blah blah, and then the mother comes in. It all syncs up really well.
But that was an example of events happening at the same time that you saw the different versions of in different episodes. So that was intentional. That's the other stuff.
That's the only bits to me that do match up if you watch them side by side. I think. I haven't seen everything like that, so not that I want to anyway. It would probably do my head in.
Another example that's just happened about returning to the thing that we were just talking about earlier about Nido and Diane. Diane appears at Glastonbury Grove, and seeing Cooper for the first time again. At the moment that we see Diane for the first time, we see Nido for the first time appearing in the episode 17. So again, something that's kind of connecting, and this is kind of a thing that happens throughout the entire episodes 17 and 18. Not all the time, but are kind of important moments, and then it kind of links up together, however you call it.
I don't think I've really examined it like that, I sort of kind of put me off to think, oh God, do I have to?
I think it's coincidence. That's what Sabrina Sutherland said as well. So.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I don't think they could have linked everything up like that. I think it would take forever to work that one out.
Before we lose Cooper forever and talk about Richard for the rest of the chat, that scene where Coop comes out of those curtains. If someone said to me, you can have one single frame from the entire season 3, to hang on your wall, that one. Go back and have another look at it. Him standing in the woods against the backdrop of those curtains after 25 years is just
it's a beautiful moment.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
It's gorgeous. It's just gorgeous. It's something about the red and the green and the black. It's just, really, really nice. The whole scene,
the drapes in the woods,
beautiful.
So such an unusual image. Yeah. It's great, very effective.
Yeah.
But this is where things start going a bit squiffy, weird. They pull into a motel. Diane and Coop. They've gone through that. Sorry, just prior to that, they go through this kind of like lightning thing, and then the next minute they're in the dark road rather than light. Everything's changed. You don't know who's who at this point because it's difficult to tell until they get into the motel room. Then things seem to be different. And Cooper says something. He says to her, "Turn off the light." Implying that it would be better if they're obscured during this moment, perhaps. Not to look at each other.
I think this is where it finally starts to dawn on her that this isn't Cooper. This isn't proper Cooper. That this is the Tulpa, which kind of supports my theory.
Yeah. But they start to make love, and interestingly, the music that's playing out at this point is the same music from the radio station bit in part 8. The
Platters
light bit. But there's an Angelo Badalamenti sinister underscore on it this time, so we know things are not right at all.
And she covers his face.
Yes, and that's interesting.
She's very upset by this.
Yeah. That's intriguing. Why she does that, hides his face.
Well, don't forget, she actually was raped by Mr. C years ago, apparently, and
that's bringing back awful memories.
That's why she's very apprehensive.
Yeah.
Same face. Yeah, same face. Yeah, she touches his face too when he first comes out. She's very facial.
Saying, "Turn off the light. I don't want you to see me, to look at me, or so it wouldn't remind you of that." Do you think? Or do you think something else is going on there?
Maybe
I think that. Sorry.
Maybe Cooper wanted to make it easier on her by turning off the lights. So
I don't think this is Cooper, though, and I think that's what she realizes, and I think that's why she's very upset, because it reminds her that once again she's being duped by somebody that isn't Cooper. That's what happened originally with Mr. C. So I think that's why she leaves a note and says, "You know what, I'm out of here. This isn't right."
Yeah, it's definitely not right. The whole thing, it feels wrong. Yeah. Well, next morning. So anyway, morning comes. She's gone, but she's left a note, and this is when it's intriguing. She says, "Dear Richard," and even though if that's not the right clue, why does he question who Richard is? He goes, "Richard." It's Richard, like that.
I think he's remembering from what the fireman said at the beginning.
Yeah. So is it Cooper? I don't know. When you read this, "I'll be gone. I don't recognize you anymore." Like, yes, as you say, "Don't try to follow me, Linda." So
and he doesn't. He goes out. He goes out
Judy's instead. Appropriately called Judy's. This cafe. Yeah.
But actually, the interesting thing is when he gets out of the motel, it's not the same motel anymore.
No, that's another thing.
It's a totally different. It's a totally different thing.
Everything's the hotel's different, and the car is different as well.
Yeah,
car's different. Yeah,
and he does look back, but he doesn't. I don't really. It looks like, I don't know if he's acknowledging the fact it's different, because he looks back at it like that, and then he goes into the car. But
that again indicate a problem with time, since he's changed time. If he has changed time,
in
other words, maybe it takes a while for things to shift. I mean, into place, and so things are in a constant, which doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, otherwise you'd be looking at a building and it would change before your eyes. But I mean, I don't know. I think again, it's something there's no real explanation for. It's just there for you to catch it and try to maybe make up some kind of reason why this is happening. I would say it could just be a time lapse exercise. The fact that he's been for days visiting different motels on his way to Texas, but who knows?
I was actually looking at the ending of the scene, and you see like this pole in the middle before the car drives away. It's like, why is the camera focusing on this pole?
That pole, isn't there?
Yeah. And the funny thing is, when I was here I go again. When I was looking at 17, at that moment, Bob, like a sphere, is there, and when the British guy is actually attacking him, or actually attacking.
Because the bit with Judy's was intriguing because the girl, the waitress that was in it, is actually Francesca Eastwood, Clint Eastwood's daughter or granddaughter, I believe.
I don't know.
Yep. That's her mother's. What's it? Frances Fisher? Is it Fisher? Frances?
Is it? I'm not sure. But yeah, that was another thing, little nugget there I didn't know about at the time. I found out later on. Anyway, you get these three goons that come in and decide to pick on her, and Coop, or whoever it is at this point, springs into action and shoots one of them in the leg, and they go down. He takes their guns, and he asks the waitress, is there another, well, just prior to that, she asked, is there another girl that works here? Yeah. Well, she's been off for 3 days. And he asked her to write down her address. And this is what we're going to lead into. But it's interesting. I don't know. I really have no idea why he put the guns into a chip fryer. Can anyone enlighten me?
I've never seen it. Or to combat evil.
Well, I'm pretty sure it's not good for the guns, but like he even points out, he doesn't know how dangerous that is, and it possibly could be.
Might go off.
Or maybe he doesn't want them to get to it. The bad guys.
Yeah.
He could have just taken the ammo out of it.
That would have been smarter, yes.
You're right, though. He did. That's the point where he felt. That's when he felt to me that it wasn't really Cooper. There was something different about his demeanor and his character. At that point, I thought,
he feels really empty. There's just an emptiness to him.
Yeah,
he's almost going through emotions when something's missing from him.
Yeah,
I actually agree because he didn't enjoy the coffee anymore.
Well, he didn't like it. He was like, it's like that in between. Isn't it?
Yeah.
I loved the coffee. Bad Coop didn't want any coffee. Couldn't really take it. And this guy, whatever version this is, kind of like in between. He takes a sip, but he doesn't. He's kind of just, it's all right.
Exactly.
So there's all these different takes on the. You can tell a lot from the coffee as to how these characters are different about it. And Cooper
doesn't have any of Cooper's little quirks or mannerisms at all. And the further the episode goes in, the further and further and further away you feel from Dale Cooper. And it sort of goes back, and I agree with Tim's assertion that maybe the goodness in Cooper did go home with Dougie, because what we're left with in part 18, to me, resembles a man who has lost 25 years of his life and has nothing really left to give. That's how it feels. He feels vacant and empty in part 8.
Yeah. Something
away from Cooper.
Yeah, definitely. Anyway, sorry, come on, really.
Yeah, I also was thinking of what Diane said before they entered the other dimension, or actually what they said to each other about that they didn't know what would happen after that, and things could actually change, or they would forget. And maybe how further we get into the episodes, their characteristics change more and more and more and more.
See, I don't think hers changed, though. I think his were already different before.
I think it's getting more and more.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, he's not. This isn't Cooper. I mean, not the one we know. That's why you think maybe it's a tulpa, because it's not quite right. You know what I mean? Cooper wouldn't put guns in the chip fryer, and also he wouldn't be waving his gun around at that old couple with their pancakes, and the young waitress. I mean, he's not being very Cooper-like. I mean,
there's definitely
the whole time.
There's definitely a difference.
Well, the dialogue too. It's direct and assertive, but it doesn't contain any emotion. It's just delivered with this flat coldness. Now you are going to do this, and now I am going to do that. It doesn't feel like Cooper at all.
Yeah, he's sort of flat. He's sort of in flat tone. Says, "Write down the address, the waitress," and it's all very kind of flat. Something not right.
Just barks commands at people. It doesn't.
Anyway, he ends up traveling because he's in Odessa, Texas now, as you say. And he goes to this house, and you can see it's a pretty run-down place. It's outside the front there, it's all a mess, and there's car tires out there and all sorts up against the wall, and knocks on the door, and who answers? But is it Laura Palmer at the door? Well, it's Cheryl Lee anyway. You know that much. But he probes her, asks her questions. Are you Laura? Are you Laura Palmer? Do you know? You're saying you're not Laura Palmer? Yeah, I don't know who this person is. Then he goes back and asks her questions about her parents. Your father was Leland. No reaction, tellingly. As soon as he mentions Sarah, there's a kind of slight glimmer of recognition, because she goes, "So Sarah?" Like that. Like she used to do when she was Laura. It sounded like young Laura coming through.
But she neither confirms or denies. I mean, it's really interesting.
Yeah. But that's kind of I like that. Anyway,
Laura left.
Yeah.
I also feel that she was a little bit shocked in a way, emotionally, when she heard the name Sarah. This is kind of
Also, she's Lynch's typical girl in trouble. I mean, there's a dead body in her living room, and she rather than being frightened of an FBI agent showing up, she actually welcomes the opportunity to go off with him,
to get the hell out.
Which is really bizarre. I mean, it doesn't make any kind of sense. You're going to run off with a cop when you've got a dead body in your living room. It's just.
Yeah. Come on in.
And why is the cop so disinterested in the dead body in the machine gun?
It's intriguing that Cooper doesn't even question it. He doesn't even mention about the dead body in the room.
Again, it's not Cooper, I don't think.
He's not saying, by the way, you've got a dead body in your room, in case you didn't notice. There's no kind of reaction to it.
They both ignore it.
Yeah,
actually,
much.
until Sarah, until Laura, actually, Carrie, I have to say, leaves the house. That's the last moment that she actually looks at him, the dead guy.
Just quick, but she can't wait to get out of there.
Yeah.
He's like a shining light, a beacon of light to get her the hell out of her messy life, really.
But pick up all those little repeated symbols in there as well. The toilet rolls stacked in the same way. There's the three infinity signs on the wall. There's a few little visual clues in the scene. I mean, the white horse is there, and that's a pretty blatant one. But
that's right. There's little white horses on above the fireplace. Yeah.
And 3 pictures, 3 toilet rolls. There's some sort of symbiotic stuff happening in the scene. Or it could be coincidence.
Yeah, I think so too. There's some symbolism going on. The white horse, also the circular shape behind it.
Yeah,
it's like maybe referring.
Something.
Yeah.
Anyway, she gets in, goes with him, and this is when we get this. What initially, I suppose, when we all watched it, first of all, we thought, "Bloody hell, man, this is a long scene."
It's a long way from Texas to Washington.
For sure. It's not quite as long as it would be if you're really doing it, but it's about 12 minutes on screen.
It's really hard to tell. It's hard to tell in this scene if Lynch is trying to invoke a feeling in you, and he just let you go with it, or whether he just likes the way it looks and wanted to see 12 minutes of Dale Cooper.
I'd say both of those are right, probably. I mean, but there's the bit where they think they're being followed, and we never find out who or what that is either. That adds some tension to the scene. But again, basically, it is a very long drive to Twin Peaks. I mean, I don't mean to get ahead of you, but Twin Peaks doesn't look right either. The Double R looks a little different. The sign is missing for Double R to go.
That's right. It's saying about things when you rewatch, you see things that you might not have spotted the first time around. You know. When
you look at Laura, Carrie, I have to say again, is that she looks a bit sad during the whole drive. There are moments she's thinking about her past.
Well, I mean, think about it. Cooper should have 5 million questions. She should have a similar number of questions for him. And they just sit in the car and she talks about the kitchen or whatever.
They don't say a word, I don't think, for the longest time. Similarly, earlier with Diane and driving, they just don't talk. And it's just like, that's what makes it also a bit bizarre, because you're just like, wouldn't they be talking about something? Wouldn't he have a million questions for her, like you said? And she's like we said a minute ago, she's grasping at anything to get out of her predicament. But you would think she would have questions for him as well.
Yeah. The whole thing's bizarre. It's just so bizarre.
But there's a couple of lines that she does say in the car, which kind of intriguing. Which I at the time I never thought anything of. It was just like a bit of dialogue, you know. But when you look back on things, some things take on different meanings. Yeah.
She said this thing, in those days I was too young to know any better.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, when they're driving and she says this thing, I was looking at episode 17 again, and that's when you see James and Laura actually driving on the bike. And it's actually kind of going back in time to her earlier years. So it's interesting. It's interesting.
And she also says, I tried to keep the house clean and in order as well.
Yeah.
Which I find an interesting line as well.
Yeah. It's hard to tell if she's just talking straight, you know, she's trying to keep the house clean, or whether she's talking about her life or...
Yeah.
In
order, basically.
Odd line.
Differently.
I think the later one.
It's a very odd line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do stop for gas at one point.
That's an event.
Needs to be done.
They have a little break from the monotony.
Actually, I've got a question.
Yeah.
The petrol station is called Valero. Is it like a American, well-known?
I think it's the Texas one. I think I'm not sure. I don't get out of the state much, but there's definitely millions of them where I live.
Okay.
Tim, is there a real place called Judy's Diner in Texas, or is that made up?
I've never been to Odessa. Texas is very big, so I mean, I'm guessing there is, because I don't think they would have made a false sign for something so random.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that the inside was a set that they filmed on, but the outside was or it might have been a real legit diner, I guess. But the outside was probably just something that they saw and went with. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So they're moving on again, and she's kind of like that, kind of daydreaming. Well, she is. Obviously, he can't because he's driving. But and that's what Tim was saying earlier on. When they enter Twin Peaks, and it looks like they're going over Ronette's Bridge, you know, that bit. I think that's Ronette's Bridge. You know, the bridge they drive onto, like that. But as it's all at night time, it's difficult to tell. But they passed the double R brief, and this is the thing. I never spotted it the first time round. I know now, but the cherry pie to go sign is missing along the front. You know, the arrows. So what's happened to Twin Peaks here is which time zone are we in? What period of time are we in?
Maybe we're in the real world.
Is this when the cherry pie to go is gone, the sign? Is it a case of like, is this before Norma met that guy and wanted to do that franchise with her? And then she, after that fact, she said, I just want to go back and just, you know, serve my customers in Twin Peaks. So maybe
is that not another indication that something is wrong with time, or that they maybe are early? Maybe, like he says at the end, what year is it? And that leads you to think, what if they're there in the 50s or the 40s or something?
Yeah.
Although I don't think it'd be that far back. But the fact that the Palmers don't live at the house yet, maybe.
Yeah. It's got
what you mentioned earlier about the real Sorry, well, what you mentioned about the real world, Marilla, that's been discussed in detail because
later in the episode, maybe I shouldn't tell it yet, or maybe I should. Okay, I'll just say it anyway. Later in the episode, Carrie and Cooper end up at the house of Sarah Palmer, they think.
Yeah.
But when they open the door, or actually knock on the door and the door is open, the person that's standing there is not Sarah Palmer, but it's actually the owner of the house that's in the real world, standing there. Yeah.
Yeah. Have we blurred into the real world? Yeah. What world? Yeah. What world are we actually crossing here? Or I don't know.
Well, we see lots of things. We see brands and we see shipping containers and just real sort of things that exist, and our attention's drawn to them. And maybe that is one of the feelings that he's trying to sort of get across to us, is that Twin Peaks has bled into our world and vice versa.
And maybe Twin Peaks is the dream in general for us all to watch, but before we go back to the real world.
Yeah.
Maybe it's preparing us for it.
The
shock of the real world bit.
Yeah.
He's trying to ease the slow. That's why he does that slow drive and kind of like contemplate it. And because that drive really, I think, is like a bit of a Zen moment really that Lynch is doing there. It's reflecting real life in a way, because if you were in a car at night and you're not driving, generally when you're a passenger and it's at night time, you go into a different kind of zone, don't you? The lights are on you. You kind of go into like a dreamy zone and a sleepy kind of thing. So it could just be that base level that he's trying to get, that he likes. Something that we would experience if we were in a long drive. It might not be any more than that. Anything more. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's no accident, though. It was written. I'm sorry.
Go on. Sorry, Tim.
No, I was saying this. It was scripted this way, though. It's no accident. This is exactly what they wanted to do, and it's a deliberately slowly paced finale to a long series. And I think that did make a lot of people upset. But to be fair, it's what you're going to get with these guys. I think it's deliberate. It's not supposed to be anything other than what you see is what you get with David Lynch and Mark Frost, I think. So.
Yeah, complete opposite to the episode before, where it was much more like action, fast-paced, a lot of exposition, and then it went down the complete other route at the end. The last one, it's intriguing, the contrast. They packed everything into episode 17, and then they just took a step back and chilled a bit on the last one. But
it was almost like a Marvel episode the one before it. So it was just insanely weird.
Yeah.
Flying off and that kind of thing.
They had their own Iron Fist.
And it's
or Hulk.
What happens in part 17? I keep coming back to that thing that said to Cooper at the start, kill two birds with one stone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like this was Cooper's plan, and and things are actually going right. Things have gone right, maybe not wrong. I don't know.
Yeah,
I was also thinking about that, though. To kill two birds with one stone. It's like, I thought, like, okay, one of them is Bob, but the other one is Judy.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
A lot of people have said that the Giant and Cooper make a deal. That's what you're seeing at the beginning. Because do you not think that maybe the Giant or the fireman would be upset that his so-called creation that we see happen in episode 8 was murdered? Not that we see him create Laura Palmer, but we see, the orb, the ball, it goes to Earth. Obviously, he's got some interest, and that's his remedy to the creation of the thing that comes out and spits all the evil out. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe because otherwise, the idea that you're going to go back in time and pull somebody out of danger makes no sense. It sounds very damaging. I mean, the idea that you would do that is because what if she gets hit by a bus tomorrow? Then I mean, you can't protect the girl forever. You know what I'm saying? And it's like that seems like a ludicrous plan. I was really shocked when they did that in episode 17. You're like, they're retconning the entire series just to save Laura Palmer. In other words, it never happened. So I mean, wow, where do you go from there?
You know what, Tim? Again, two birds with one stone.
There, but there's a lot of possibilities. That's the thing.
If you look at that two birds with one stone thing, and these parts again, if you look at it, it could be interpreted as Lynch killing two birds with one stone as well, by going back and retconning the entire season 1 and 2. He's essentially killing off the story.
Yeah.
And he's killing off the story continuing by dropping Cooper into this weird little zone he's in. It's almost like Lynch is killing the original series and the possibility of a future series. That's what it is.
I'm
lots
okay
of
with
layers.
I'm okay with that. I don't think there should be anymore. I think this is it. I do think this is it. And all that hype and talk about Series 4 is just misguided, I think. But
I want it to continue forever. I do. I'm
on that kind of side of things as well. Some people say that's it, don't do it anymore.
I'm actually with Tim, because I'm okay with if this is the end. I'm totally fine with it. I'm also really okay if there's more, but yeah, this is going to be a huge challenge for David and Mark to pull this one off. Yeah. Needs lots of years again to prepare if they are up for it.
I mean, I would understand if they didn't do it anymore. If their heart wasn't in it and the ideas weren't there, there's no point in doing it. Another one. You know?
I reckon what's going to happen, and sometime in the future, is Lynch might take a step back into more of an executive producer, creative director type role, and maybe Mark Frost will helm Twin Peaks, sort of take a step forward like that. And that would certainly get the timelines moving forward. You know, it would mean, you know, he could bring on a small team of writers under Lynch's direction to keep things in, and keep Twin Peaks grounded in Twin Peaks. But it would also mean that, you know, we could be looking at more of a traditional TV production where it takes a year or 2 years to make a season, not 10. You know,
not like 85.
It goes to that idea, because Mark Frost is as much Twin Peaks as David Lynch is, and always has been and always will be. And he doesn't get memed because he's like the sleeping partner. You know, he's in the background.
Very much.
But he's so important as well.
Oh, he's
Lynch is going to be an executive producer. I'd say bravo.
Yeah. Actually, I want to go back to the real ending of the episode, because we haven't been talking about that one yet.
We're getting to it. We've been pretty much on the episode flopping in time. You know.
Yeah. What year is this?
Exactly.
That is a tense scene, or it turns out to be a very tense scene. You know. But it's lovely, as we were saying earlier on about, you know, that Mary Reba actually owns the real Palmer House in a place called Everett in Washington. That's where it is. So we get to they arrive at Laura Palmer's house, and up they go to the stairs, and Coop knocks on the door, and who answers but this woman, who it turns out is Mary Reba. But Coop's a bit stunned why this person's answering the door. So he asks, Is Sarah Palmer there? No. And she seems to be talking to someone off camera who actually was her husband that was behind the door that she was talking to, asking him, like, do you know Sarah Palmer? No. But before that, he asks Carrie, because her name's Carrie Page now, Laura's character at this point, do you recognise this house? And she says no. Not at that point. Nothing was dawning on her.
And the same is actually happening when she's on the stairs and when the doors are open. And nothing really hits her at all.
Just kind of like staring wide-eyed around, a bit kind of like bewildered or out of it or something. But he asks the lady at the door, who had the house before you? And she says, Mrs. Chalfont, going harking back to Fire Walk With Me, you know. Although in that case, there was two Chalfonts. But interestingly in this, who had it before that? And she says, we don't know. So we don't get to hear the two Chalfonts, we get to hear one. But they don't know who owned it before that Chalfont. But when he asks what her name is, that's the real whammy one. She says, Alice Tremont. Wow, you know.
Well, is that not them just making fun of their own mistake? That it was Tremont in the series, and by the time of the movie, it would have been changed to Chalfont, but it was the same character, wasn't it? The old woman with the grandson. So
Yes.
I mean, they're just kind of. I think that's just them kind of poking fun at themselves, right? Or is it just meant to throw everybody off? And there's more theories now we can come up with.
More theories. Yeah, I think it's going to just have us theorizing over that one.
It was the magic beans. It was the Chalfonts. Yeah, they did it.
Yeah. But it's kind of like, and he goes, Cooper says, okay, thank you very much anyway. Good night to you. But when they go back down the stairs, they're going much slower down there. And it's kind of like, there's a sense of foreboding going on, isn't there? You can sense the tension at this point. Cooper looks really, really confused at this point. He's sort of looking around this, And that famous line he says, what year is this? And Laura looks back at the house, and you can hear Sarah Palmer's voice cry out, Laura, from what sounds like a pilot, I think it was. Yep. When she's calling up her room to cool her down after the murder, I believe. It sounded like that. It was grabbed from that. Is that right, Chris, do you think? It sounded like that line from...
Yeah. It was... It was the sound. It was the Laura call. We hear a fair bit. I think we hear it at the start of part 1 as well. And it's the Laura when Sarah's calling up to Laura the morning she never came home. I think.
That's right. Yeah. And Carrie lets one of the famous screams.
Yeah.
And all the lights in the house.
Yeah.
And it cuts.
The electricity goes out in the house, and that's it. Yeah.
Cuts to black. And the last screenshot we see is Laura whispering that into Coop's ear from the Black Lodge. I mean the season 3 versions of them, not the original.
Actually, what I think what happened is when you look at 17, you see Sarah stabbing the frame of Laura Palmer.
Yeah.
She's like really angry. And I was actually rewatching 18 several times at the end, and I heard a voice like silently, like saying Laura. And I think, could it be the Sarah of 17 shouting Laura at some point? But it could also be the first episode ever.
It was from the pilot.
It's kind of, it fits in a way that there's anger and emotion and shouting at the same time.
But again, it's flipping with time again, because that's like when she first died, the morning after that Laura sound, to where they are now at the house. In that point, it's intriguing. Where the
beginning and the end.
Yeah, it's like
future or past.
Beginning and an end. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's an opening, of course. There's many possibilities if they carry on. The story with Carrie and that Coop, what that story could be about Carrie, and they may have to unravel her memories to get her back to being Laura again for whatever reason, set her on the right path again. It's another set of things that could, that are thrown up, another set of questions, But intriguing on this version of when we see that famous Lynchs Frost Productions bit at the end, and you usually get the crackling static, it's completely silent on this one. No sound.
Oh, really? Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
No more electricity.
No more, yeah. She blow out all the electricity, not just the house.
I hadn't noted.
I actually had a weird thought. So can I kind of go back to lore for a moment? What if all these seasons that we've seen Laura in season 1 and 2, could it have been that she was a tulpa, and that in 3 we get to see the real Laura?
Yeah.
It's a kind of later thought I recently got. It's like, is that a possibility?
There are so many, though. That's the thing. So many possibilities.
Or Carrie Page could be the tulpa.
That's also a possibility. Just
Laura was ripped out.
When you see Carrie Page, she's blinking, doing that kind of blinking that Dougie was doing. You know that strange slow blinking thing going on. She was doing that as well, and that makes me wonder if she was actually real or created, or manufactured, as they say. Who knows?
And who's the Laura at the credits? Whispering in Cooper's ear. Ooh.
Anyway, guys, that was, and ever shall be, season 3 of Twin Peaks. I think we'll come back, and what we'll do is maybe we could do an overview of the whole, general kind of overview of the whole season, because then we can look at it fresh eyes again. Maybe get different thoughts on it. Maybe we could come back and do something like that. But for the purposes of this, we haven't really got the time to do that. But I want to thank all of you for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much, mate.
Thank you. And
thank you very much.
Care.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Frank.
Thank you, Marilla. It's been great. And, thank you guys for listening. As I say, we'll probably come back with some sort of like a general overview of the whole season soon, because there's an awful lot to talk about. We never even scratched the surface. So hopefully we'll see you then. Until then, guys, take care. Thank you.